So here we go. Let's look at the material of the music. So this is the third intermezzo. It's in C sharp minor. And here's an interesting thing. The entire phrase structure of this piece is in 5-bar phrases, sort of obsessively so. Every phrase of the piece is in 5 bars. Brahms was fascinated by 5 as a rhythmic component, so you get a lot of cross-rhythmic 5s in his music. In this case, though, it's simply that each phrase has 5 bars, which is not the standard, as you know. The standard for a phrase length is 4 or 8 or whatever. It tends to be much squarer. Brahms likes phrases that are in 3s or 5s, so he has a preference for that. And it's not just perversity, it's that he likes that slight sense of extension that you get with a 5th bar phrase. So the opening phrase bold in lots of ways. It's song-like. It's like a lullaby. It's got this da da dun da da dun da 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 da, very lullaby-like, folk song-like rhythm. Looky, there we go. So he starts in octaves. In fact, we don't have any harmony until the 5th bar. So we've got 1, 2. Rises in the 3rd bar, 4th bar reaches at the top of the range and then drops. Harmony comes into the 5th bar, and then we have a half close. So we've got this beautiful shape. We've talked a lot on the channel about simplicity. And here's the thing, there's a dialectic with really great music where you have a dialectic, a sort of tension between simplicity and complexity, or innocence and experience. Do you see what I mean? This is an example, a melody that feels like a lullaby, feels like a children's song, but it's imbued with this incredible experience and knowledge and sophistication. So you've got undulating patterns sort of around da 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 da, around the tonic, around C sharp, undulating patterns, pushing a little higher, 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 higher in the 4th bar, and then turning back down to the half close on G sharp major, the dominant. Now, you'll notice top of the phrase is B natural, and then it drops down to B sharp. So do you notice that dissonance between the B natural? So the B and the B sharp gives us what we call a false relation. B is the flattened 7th, the modal 7th in C sharp. And it's kind of got a modal feel there at the top. The modal 7th, and that's as high as you go. And then you drop to the sharpened leading note, which is a more classical leading note. So that tension between B and B sharp runs all the way through the piece. It's a kind of expressive tension, and it's a tension you find a lot in early music. Brahms was a big fan of early music. He knew a lot of Renaissance music, so he kind of knew that. He was incredibly knowledgeable. He was one of the most scholarly of the great composers. So we got the false relation between the B natural and the B sharp. So in the second phrase, Brahms brings in a bass line, so we don't just have octaves, now we have C sharp, G sharp underneath, C sharp, G sharp to establishing the tonality. Now it goes more interestingly towards G sharp minor and then turns back to G sharp. So again, I kind of half close. Third phrase has this parallel motion from A, first inversion of A, to G sharp minor, dropping to F sharp, and then 5th bar hits the dominant. Now we get a harmonized version, almost like Schubert this, with this lovely sequential sort of canonic pattern in the lower voices. And underneath, do you notice that drop? C sharp to B, A sharp, A to G, and then finally that brings us down to C sharp. This is what we call a Passus Duriusculus, this dropping pattern that takes you chromatically from tonic down to dominant and then resolves. So we've got this lovely sense of something spiraling downwards. And then the fifth bar. We got that C sharp underneath, the sense of the tonic, and over it the da 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 da. Wonderful falling melody. So you've got this rich texture. And it's at this point that Brahms launches a beautiful sort of elegiac thing, just off that perfect cadence. That's the first perfect cadence of the piece. Not very easy to play this. It's a sort of virtuosity. Brahms all his life reacted to the Lisztian, sort of showy-offy, flamboyant of mid-19th century piano virtuosi. He didn't like it, he thought it was vulgar. He thought that it was somehow meretricious. It made music into a kind of circus. It took away the seriousness of the Beethovenian project, you know, where, yes, there's virtuosity, but the purpose of that virtuosity is a kind of deeper, more emotionally engaging, richer sonority. Do you see what I mean? The piano virtuosity, if it serves the expression of the music, that's fine, but not if it becomes merely a display, a way of showing off, a display, an object of display. And so Brahms reacted against empty virtuosity. I mean, I'm not sure that I think it's as simple as that, to dismiss Liszt. I don't dismiss him, because I think with Liszt, the virtuosity is much more than that. It is in its own way a kind of colour and a thrill. You know, virtuosity is thrilling. It brings an amazing energy, an amazing kind of, how do you do that? Quality to music, which is always kind of part of the magic of it, surely. But I take Brahms's point that if it is merely empty display, then that's not at all interesting. Here, though, there's a kind of virtuosity in the handling of piano texture. The pianist has to play the melody in the lower half of the right hand, the lullaby tune, but at the same time have chords above and arpeggios underneath that are held back in the texture, so you're having to weight your hand, it's quite hard to do, and bring out that melody against those other elements in the texture. So it's hard to do. It is a kind of virtuosity of texture. So here we have the push towards B with the modal, that lovely expressive shift towards B major. B major, which is just below the tonic. Of course, B major is the dominant of E major, which is the relative major of C sharp minor. So B isn't far away, but it has a lovely elegiac quality here. There it is, B major, and then there's the B sharp as we pull back towards C sharp minor, and again. Here's B major again, and it has to, isn't that wonderful, at A sharp, it has to then turn back to G sharp minor. These harmonies in Brahms, they're so rich, they're so expressive and warm and kind of earthy, and there's something very special about these smoky colours of his. It's like an autumn, it's like autumn leaves. I don't know what it's like, but it's got that kind of rich. Sometimes I think in music we're far too obsessed with, I hate it, with the jargon of harmony, the naming of chords and so on. There's something else that's much more interesting, which is the movement of lines and the emotional impact, the colour of the thing. It's the colour of the harmony here that's so interesting. The B major, and then that A sharp there underpinning that half diminished chord, the A sharp pulling us towards D sharp and then to G sharp. So we've got that wonderful, very Brahmsian turn using that half diminished chord towards G sharp minor. Don't worry if you don't know what a half diminished chord is. A diminished chord, but with a major third on the top. Wagner's favourite chord, of course, because if you think of the Tristan chord, which we've discussed a lot on the channel, that's a half diminished chord, really. Brahms and Wagner are both obsessed with half diminished chords. In Brahms's case, it tends to be a chord that he uses before a cadence. Instead of just having secondary dominant to dominant to tonic, he likes the half diminished chord as part of that cadential shape. Right, now just to hasten on to the end of this opening section of the Intermezzo, he finishes with a kind of lingering version of the tune. Instead of, he takes that exact shape, but he stretches it out. So we linger on the first E, then we linger on the D sharp. Incidentally, here's another Brahmsian innovation. The combination, he's very keen on that chord. It's a sus2, really, what we would call in popular music a sus2. In other words, but you've also got the fifth. So you've got the fifth and you've got the third. But it doesn't, what Brahms likes is just to let it sit there. Almost like a combination of a tonic and its dominant. It's like a mix of the two, unresolved. It gives you a sort of strange sense of space and something unresolved. So you move from C sharp minor to an unresolved suspension. There's a fourth suspension, back to our sus2 chord, and then finally a dominant seventh which can resolve. So now let's look at this middle section. This is fascinating. In Brahms's late music, he does this thing often in the middle sections of Intermezzi where there's something very experimental going on. You have a tune, still in 8-bar phrases. Imagine a tune that's just going 1, just in straight crotches, in that shape. So instead of just having the intervals in this simple shape, imagine if you displace the octave, so you turn it into this angular shape, where the tune is kind of pinging around. And also, imagine if instead of landing on the beat, this is a trick he got from Schumann, his mentor, you put it just a semiquaver early, so it's going before the beat, there. So the whole thing is in a 5-bar phrase and fascinatingly rich in terms of experimental texture and the sort of fragmentation of the melodic line. Also these accompaniment figures, which are also like little motivic cells that are dotted around. So it's so brilliantly crafted. There's a famous essay by Schoenberg where he talks about Brahms the Progressive. This is an example, a sort of rather experimental texture where the tune is being thrown around, these little cells, everything's just ahead of the beat. Look at that. And here's the 5th bar, and so it goes. So the whole thing is built out of these 5-bar phrases again, but this time with the tune being thrown around. At the end of the middle section, we get this beautiful transition, a little link passage, not in 5-bar phrases, the only part of the piece that's in 3-bar phrases. So we've got this. You can hear that. The tension around the B sharp and the B natural. And fascinatingly, the harmony, isn't that wonderful? Actually, if you take the these little appoggiaturas in the right hand, and you put them in a line. It's a little bit like a half diminished scale. It's almost octatonic. Then the B natural. Here's another one. Again, a sort of octatonic feel to that. Marvelous. So again, exploring these lovely sort of diminished patterns. Here's the flattening of the tune. And here's a wonderful thing. Brahms, by this stage in the 19th century, Brahms is well aware that just returning to the tonic is a bit clunky. He tends to avoid that at recapitulations. He tends to do something more subtle. So here's a beautiful example. Here's the tune coming back, but look at the harmony around it. So the magic here is the way that Brahms, instead of going in at the tonic, goes in at the secondary dominant, D sharp. So there, D sharp to G sharp to C sharp, that's how he's going to take this. D sharp, it's going around the circle of fifths, G sharp, the dominant, and then we go to a first inversion of the tonic, A major to B major, and then finally resting on the dominant, but we don't go to C sharp, we go to the subdominant. So it's sort of avoiding the tonic. Again, the music turns to B major, and again, B major. Isn't that beautiful? And listen to this little pivot. C sharp 7 to G sharp minor. And then the octaves, really poetic and extraordinary, like some kind of lead. You know, he's a great song composer, Brahms, and you can hear it in the way he writes. It's poetic, it's rich harmony. The avoidance, the tonic gives it a kind of mystery. It's magnificent. And then at the very end of the piece, do you remember the elegiac way that he finished the first section with these relatively simple alternations of C sharp minor and that suspension? He doesn't do that this time. It's the same slowing down of the melody, but there's a half diminished chord with the A sharp in the bass, the secondary dominant. So this time he's taking us round the circle of fifths from A sharp to D sharp to G sharp to C sharp. So we go four fifths. We go around 4 stages of the circle of fifths. So there's the tune forming a half diminished over that A sharp. D sharp 7. Look at this, another half diminished over that D sharp, and then finally we can hear it pulling us home. G sharp in the bass, and then finally we land on the tonic. So all these wonderful approaches to cadences that are in Brahms's case, so deftly handled, so subtle. The way that he plays around with our expectations of resolution, it's masterful stuff. Right, so here we go. I'm going to try playing the whole thing. Now, very often in our videos I record on another piano or whatever, and we have the score following, but you know what we're going to do today? I think I'm just going to play it. Ian may end up editing the score over the top. Probably won't do an analysis. So this is it, and it's on my old upright. It's not amazingly in tune. No need to comment on that. I know it's not amazingly in tune, but this is how it is. I'm sure Brahms's piano wasn't always in tune either.